everyone. I'd like to welcome you all to the May 17th, 2022 Planning Commission meeting, and I'd like to call the meeting to order. My name is Ken Beeson. I'm the chair of the Eugene Planning Commission. Tonight, we're holding deliberations on two appeals of the Eugene Historic Review Board's decision approving concurrent applications for a historic demolition, historic alteration, and an adjustment review to allow for development of 123 units of low-income housing. In getting started, I want to thank everyone for joining us. We continue in a remote meeting format, which allows us to complete our business and keep our staff, Planning Commission, and the public safe. Anybody that wants to access the meeting can do so. You can watch the broadcast on Comcast channel 21. You can live stream. There's a live stream available on our website, and you can also follow the access instructions that are listed on the agenda for this meeting. Now, as we get started, I want to announce that we're going to end the meeting tonight at 7:10 p.m. We're going to lose our quorum at that point. I do want to note that we also have a meeting scheduled next week at this time, on the 24th, as necessary, to continue deliberations and look to reach a conclusion on this appeal. So with that, what I think I'm going to do is move over to agenda item A, deliberations, the Harrionetta Chase House. And I want to turn it over to Althea Sullivan, Senior Planner, to help kind of guide us through this. Althea?
Thank you. Good evening, and I suppose for those watching or listening, my name's Althea Sullivan, Senior Planner for the city's Planning Division. I'm joined by Alyssa Hanson, our Planning Director, Gabe Flock, our Principal Planner, and Lauren Summers, our Assistant City Attorney. I did put together a brief presentation for this evening with a few slides that I think will be helpful. All right, are you all able to see that as a full screen there? It says deliberations at the top. Perfect. So at the meeting last week, a public hearing was held, and following that hearing, there were a few questions from commissioners that I just wanted to provide some responses to. I will note that staff provided an agenda ahead of this meeting where full copies of a various number of materials I will mention were provided, along with some additional information about those, but I did just want to note a couple things about these. So the first item is the Inadvertent Discovery Plan. A couple key things from that. The plan provides a list of items which, if found, would require work to stop. And there are descriptions of different items in that plan. And it's two different sets of lists for that. And then if an item was to be found on the site, there is contact information for the State Historic Preservation Office and the Commission on Indian Services, both of which would be required to be contacted and coordinated with before work could continue on the site. So that's, again, the full Inadvertent Discovery Plan was provided for you all to review, but those are some of the features of it that I thought were perhaps of interest. Another thing I want to discuss is landscaping associated with the Harrionetta Chase House. So in the agenda, staff provided the full copy of the original National Register nomination that listed the ensemble. And we also noted several places where landscaping associated with the Harrionetta Chase House was discussed. It is discussed, I believe, in 3 different places in that nomination. What I want to note about that is that the landscaping associated with the Frank Chase House, the Jack and Ida Chase House, and the Gladys Chase House is also discussed. So there's landscaping discussed with some of the other houses that are part of the ensemble. And then we also provided a copy of the applicant's rebuttal that was provided to the Historic Review Board in response to some of the testimony about landscaping that was presented to the board. And in their rebuttal, the applicant provides an argument about the landscaping on the site. And so some of the points from that, the applicant starts by pointing out some discrepancies about the number of landscape areas or garden sites that are listed in the nomination. There's a few different counts of items that they identified. And the applicant also noted that while the landscape associated with the Harrionetta Chase house was discussed in some of those other places, they did point out that under the statement of significance in the nomination, there is just a brief mention of that landscape associated with the Harrionetta Chase house. And then the applicant also went on to argue that an explanation of how the landscape is significant was not provided by the nomination. It was discussed, but there wasn't kind of an explanation of whether it was or how it was significant. It is worth noting that the term significant was used in reference to some of those other discussions of landscape related to other homes as well. And then the third item that I just wanted to provide some comments about is the review under the Oregon Administrative Rule and kind of how does that work. So as staff understands it, unlike approval criteria for a land use application, where if there were 4 approval criteria for a particular land use application and someone failed to meet one of the 4, that would be reason for that application to not be approved or have that be denied. We see, and I see this administrative rule operating differently. Rather, it requires that a hearing be held and then 8 factors be considered. And so it doesn't necessarily say that if you fail to meet one of the factors, the application needs to be denied. It's more, as I see it, intended to be taken as a whole and have all of those factors considered. But I didn't see guidance beyond considering those factors as far as kind of how to weight those or how to understand those. And so I think that was left to the decision maker, which in this case was first the Historic Review Board and now the Planning Commission on Appeal, to kind of determine, if particular weight should be given to different factors. And then the other thing that I wanted to mention at the start of deliberations here is the definition of evidence from Chapter 9. So it's provided at the top there. And I'll give you all a moment to read that. And so the reason I bring this up is that when staff was reviewing the record and items that had come in the appeal, and then also testimony that was submitted following the submittal of the appeal and before the close of the record last week, staff identified one item that we thought was clearly new evidence that was being provided. And that was text provided by Stephen Baker that referenced the agreement between, it was stated to be the agreement between the State Historic Preservation Office and the City of Eugene related to the city's certified local government status. I can pull that text up for you all separate from this if you did not have a chance to look at it. It was also in the packet I provided, so you all may have had a chance to review that. And where I'm going with this is that staff recommends that the Planning Commission choose to reject this item from the record. So that would be kind of the first order of business tonight, would be for the Planning Commission to make a decision about whether or not that is new evidence that should be rejected. And I will pause sharing the screen here for a moment so we can all see each other. And then if someone would like me to pull up that text, I'm happy to. Also, if you all had a chance to review that, I don't need to do that. And you could just move to make a motion if you would like to. So I'll stop there for a minute and happy to answer any questions you have.
Any comments or questions? Not seeing any. Lisa, sorry, Commissioner Fragola.
You can call me Lisa. It's okay.
Okay, thanks.
I move to remove the document from the record based on the definition of evidence as stated by staff.
I'll second that.
And do you mind if I
Sure, give me language. That's great.
That would be great. I'm just going to pull that back up because it was a very specific section that we saw. So go ahead.
So to remove text provided by Stephen Baker on pages 5 and 6 of Baker's appeal of the adjustment review application that Baker describes as text from the signed agreement between the City of Eugene and the Oregon State Historic Preservation Office. Do I need more?
Lauren.
Thank you, Commissioner Mason. Can I just clarify that you are moving to reject that text provided?
Correct.
Great. And then Commissioner Isaacson, do you second that motion?
Yes.
Great. Okay, thank you.
Okay, so it's moved and seconded to reject that evidence. The specific motion's been read into the record. Is there any other discussion? Okay, all in favor, please raise your hand. Anyone opposed? Okay, thank you. It's passed.
Okay, and then from here, I would actually like to just move into the specific appeal issues. Once the screen advances here. So I thought it made the most sense to start with the appeal from Stephen Baker. I listed out the 5 issues that staff saw here. And so if commissioners would like to discuss any of them, you can. My thought is that it makes the most sense to go in order and start with the first one. I'm happy to pull up any materials from the record that commissioners want to see or provide a summary of how staff understood those appeal issues as well.
So I might clarify here, and Althea or Lauren, you can help me with this or maybe clarify my clarification. I think that the effort here is to go through all the appeal issues. Some may take more discussion than others, and ultimately what we're looking for is there anything about the particular issue that causes us to or brings about any basis that we might have to modify or reverse the HRB decision. I think that's kind of generally the essence of what we're trying to do.
Commissioner, that's accurate. What you as the Planning Commission are looking to determine is whether the Historic Review Board erred in its decision making. And you do also have in front of you in your packet tonight a draft final order that walks through possible conclusions about each of the appeal issues. So to the extent that Planning Commission would like something different than what you currently see in the draft final order, it would be helpful to staff to get clear direction from Planning Commission about what the commission would like to change, if anything, as you kind of work through these appeal issues.
Thanks. Commissioner Fragola.
Yeah, I'm wondering if we are going to, as in the past when we've worked on decision making that has multiple pieces, are we going to take straw polls for each one and then take a final summative vote at the end, or will we take individual votes on each one?
I think straw polls work great to move through each of those issues. And I will just say as well, if there are not items that commissioners want to discuss in a particular appeal, we could just move forward with the whole appeal as well. So we can go through individual items if you have things and do a straw poll, or the straw poll could be that there are not comments about that individual item too.
Yeah.
And I would just, for purposes of clarity, there were 3 appeal statements filed, but the draft final order that staff is proposing, there's only a single draft final order that addresses all 3 appeal statements. So I'm anticipating that you will work through straw polls on each of the appeal issues identified in each of the appeal statements, but do at the end one final motion to adopt the final order once it's in a place that you are ready to adopt it.
So with that, I suppose maybe if you all would like to start with the first appeal issue that staff identified from the appeals here.
I don't know that I have a real comment. I thought that reviewing the record and reviewing the appeal and everything, it appeared that the staff had provided a complete record to all of the parties of interest, and so I didn't see anything there.
Do any other commissioners have comments about this or have anything they would like to discuss with it? And if not, I suppose the straw poll would be that you don't find this appeal issue a compelling reason to reverse or modify the decision of the Historic Review Board.
Maybe I'll just ask for a show of hands for all the commissioners who don't find that this is a reason to make any amendment to the findings.
Okay.
Looks unanimous.
All right, so then moving on to the second item on the screen, which is the incorrect review process for adjustment review. If any commissioners have comments on that or items they'd like to discuss. Okay, so again, it would be the same straw poll would be that find this appeal issue a compelling reason to reverse or modify the decision of the Historic Review Board. And then you can do a show of hands raised if you agree with that statement. Okay. Moving on to the third item there, allegation of the need for a land use code amendment to comply with the Oregon administrative rule. If there are any comments or discussion items about that. And then if not, it would be the same straw poll again. Lauren, are you comfortable with me not repeating that, or would you like me to repeat that again?
Let's repeat just so we're all clear.
Happy to repeat it. So it would be that this third appeal item does not provide a compelling reason to reverse or modify the decision of the Historic Review Board. And then if you agree with that, you would raise your hand. Okay, so I see 4 hands. And then moving on to the fourth appeal issue. So this was the incorrect application of factors from the Oregon administrative rule. And I do have on the next slide all of those factors if you wanted to discuss any of those factors. I'm not seeing anyone that looks like they want to discuss those. So again, we could do a straw poll that you don't find this, or Chair Ramey.
Thank you. Althea, I'm a former chair, past chair.
Oh, my apologies.
You look like a chair.
No, I just, before we got by the 8 factors, this is a difficult process because we're trying to sort out a new process and then trying to overlay that with the historic review process in itself. And the new process is not the same as the National Register process. But what's even more complicated is that this is an ensemble of buildings. So it's not just one building. And part of the challenge in this for me is that while it's a demolition of one part of the ensemble, it's not a demolition of the entire ensemble. So not a perfect analogy would be if we were demolishing part of a building and not the whole building. And so for me, the fact that it's one piece of the ensemble means that the rest of the ensemble still holds its integrity. And removing that one piece of the ensemble does not remove the entire ensemble, which is what some people were arguing. So I just wanted to say that because that's pretty much where I came down to, was it was closer to an alteration or a partial demolition, and that we shouldn't be seen or attributed to demolishing the entire National Register property. We're simply extracting one part of it. And it is for others to decide whether that means the whole thing should be delisted or not. But in my opinion, and I don't know how the rest of you fall on this, this is more in the lines of a partial demolition, and I find concurrence with all 8 factors, putting it in that context. And that's what I have to say about that.
Commissioner Fragola.
Thank you for that analogy, Commissioner Ramey. I also wanted to speak to the 8 factors, and I do find it interesting that it's unlike approval criteria, which means that we are taking all the factors into consideration. And I do believe that the Historic Review Board appropriately made a decision in balancing all those 8 factors, and they correctly applied the factors, particularly based on the review of this level of significance around some of the indicators for the houses, in addition to considering the economic factors as well as the community benefits and impacts. I was really happy to see the document discussing, what was it called again? The thing where they would stop any further development. I was really happy to see how significant in detail that was articulated. And so I think the Historic Review Board applied the factors correctly, and I don't see a need to modify or change any decision here.
I guess I'd want to quickly just echo that. I don't need to repeat. I agree. And I went through all the material pretty carefully. Appreciated a lot of the detail, but I think at the end, the Historic Review Board got it right. When you take all of those factors as a whole and look at this, I think overall their decision is the correct one. So I agree. Commissioner Isaacson.
I also won't take up a whole lot of time. And thank you, Chair. I feel the same way. I feel like the Historical Review Board is essentially having a really difficult conversation between what is essentially the past and where we want to be as the future. No one likes tearing down anything, especially of historical significance, and so it really needs to be meet a high threshold. And I think that they have meticulously gone through and detailed how not only if they're going to move ahead with demolition and redevelopment, how we can stop if something pops up that does have significance. So it's not just a well, go grab your hammers and start swinging. That there's an importance of understanding of the significance of that land in the conversation itself. And so I think that the effort that they put into each of the different factors is worth taking note.
Thanks.
With that discussion, I suppose we could do a straw poll on this item as well. So appeal issue 4 there, that you all do not find that a reason to reverse or modify the decision of the Historic Review Board by a show of hands. Okay. And then moving on to the 5th appeal issue, the standard of review. If there are any comments or questions about that one. Okay, seeing none, that you don't find that the 5th appeal issue is a reason to reverse or modify the decision of the Historic Review Board. A show of hands. Okay, see all 4 hands. And then we will move on to the appeal from the Harlow Neighbors, which raised 3 issues. So the first issue was listed as historical district property alteration. If there are any questions or comments from commissioners about that. Okay, not. Did you have a question? Okay, so then it would be the same straw poll again, that the first appeal issue from the Harlow Neighbors is not a reason to reverse or modify the decision of the Historic Review Board. And show of hands if you agree with that. I see 4 hands. Does anyone have comments on the second or third appeal issue? So the second is no Native people's history or archaeological conditions. And the third is partnering with Eugene City Parks. Okay, seeing no comments, that you don't find the second or third appeal issue from the Harlow Neighbors appeal a reason to reverse or modify the decision of the Historic Review Board. And show of hands if you agree with that. Again, I see 4 hands. So I will stop sharing my screen. With that, I suppose the next thing to discuss would be the draft final order that staff provided. So the findings in that final order affirm the decision that was made by the Historic Review Board and provided responses to each of those appeal issues that was raised. Are there any changes that commissioners wanted with that final order? And if there are, you could let us know what those are now. And if there are not, it would be putting a motion to adopt the final order, and Lauren and I can help you with language for that.
Commissioner Isaacson.
I'm sure that staff will work with me on language, but I move that the Planning Commission adopt the draft order that Priya's previously mentioned, affirming the Historical Review Board's decision on this appeal.
Can I give you more specific language?
You want to put it in your language there, Lauren?
Move to adopt the final order of the Eugene Planning Commission, city file, the Harrionetta Chase House, parens HDM 21-1 / HA 21-3 / ARB 21-2, close parens, including Exhibit A attached thereto, as set forth in its entirety as attachment E to the May 17th, 2022 agenda item summary, and to remove the draft watermark. So you are moving to approve the attached final order, removing the draft watermark. So it's a final order, not a draft final order. Do you accept that motion, Commissioner Isaacson?
First of all, that's exactly what I said. Yes. Yes.
Second.
All right, it's moved and seconded to accept the final order, to approve and accept the final order, and in the form of the motion as read into the record a minute or so ago. Is there any more discussion or any questions or? Okay, I'm not seeing any. I'll just call the question. All in favor, please raise your hand. Okay, it's unanimous. So we've, I think, accomplished the review. And Commissioner Fragola.
Yes, thank you. I did also want, after that motion has carried, correct? So
Yes.
I did also want to say that I was also really impressed by the mitigation plan that was put forward. And I think it's really important that the community understands that there is an offer on the table of $20,000 to help in some way to move that building or if anybody wants to buy it for $1. And I feel like that is a very generous offer. So I think it's important that the mitigation efforts be recognized as well.
Thanks. Any other comments? Okay. With that, I think what we'll do is move to agenda item B, which is items from commissioners and staff. I think I'm going to start with Alyssa and see if you have anything.
Great. I just have a few things. It sounds like we don't need to meet next week. Correct me if I'm wrong, Lauren, but I see no reason to bring everyone back for the appeal. So we had held next week for final action, but I think you took care of that. So we will be canceling the meeting on the 24th. Your next scheduled meeting is the 31st, and that is currently coming back to you with the Willamette Greenway code amendments. And then we've got some other things kind of brewing for summer. So we'll keep you posted on those. We've got some deadlines moving around. In terms of just upcoming city council meetings you might be interested in, last night, obviously that's a little late for you to attend, but last night they had interviews for boards and commissions candidates. As you know, we have two openings, sorry. And they interviewed 3 candidates last night, and I think there are a couple others that weren't able to make it, so they'll be fitting those in the next few weeks. And they'll be appointing those at the end of June. Tomorrow or Monday are big days for middle housing. So council will be deliberating tomorrow at noon. They may take final action. They may wait until Monday to do that as well. So at this point though, we should have a decision soon, so that's exciting. And then also going to council on June 8th is growth monitoring. So you provided some great feedback on that earlier this spring. The team's been incorporating some of that and just cleaning up the document, and is really excited to be presenting that to council. So, and then amongst all of this is a budget committee. I know some of you track that, some of you don't, I understand. And they are looking at, the city manager did include $400,000 of one-time funding to cover some of the work on some of the state mandates that we have coming up, including House Bill 2003, as well as the climate-friendly rulemaking. And then also part of that would help with growth monitoring as well. So that's in the draft budget, and we'll just see how that plays out. And the only other thing I wanted to mention is that I know everyone here has taken the land acknowledgement and sovereignty training, and I had sent out an email. And I think for next steps would be have 2 or 3 of you, and we can also ask Tiffany if she's interested, see who's interested in meeting as like a resource group or subcommittee to talk about whether or not you want to use the one that council's using, or if you want to make some modifications based on what you learned in that training, and then that could come back to the full group. The new commissioners won't be taking the training until July at the earliest, but I think that doesn't mean we have to hold off. So if there are folks here that are really interested and kind of digging into what the council's currently using for their land acknowledgement, let me know. You can just email me, or we can talk about it now. I'm fine either way. So, and that is all I have.
Okay. We have a bit of time here. Any thoughts on the land acknowledgement?
Oh,
Commissioner Commissioner Fraggle.
I did have another question.
Yeah.
Can I ask a different question, Chair?
Sure.
So I'm just wondering where the climate-friendly rulemaking is at and how soon that's going to be done, and we get to have fun with that one.
That's a really timely question. So the Land Conservation and Development is holding their second public hearing on Thursday of this week. They may possibly take action, although they are getting testimony from a number of jurisdictions and others asking them to slow down a little bit and get some more of the details worked out. So there is a chance that'll be adopted Thursday. There's a chance it'll be bumped out a little bit. I really don't know what's going to happen with that. But as soon as I can let you know after Thursday, in either case, and then we were planning a work session for council to let them know what's in it once it's been adopted. And I think it makes sense to also bring that to you as well, because there's a lot of components that will absolutely come your way.
Great, thanks. And in terms of the land recognition, we're not having 3 new
Assuming I say that because they still have to appoint Commissioner Edwards.
Okay,
right.
All right.
So,
okay. I guess I know it might take a long time to plan for the 2 new commissioners to receive the training, but I do think there's some benefit to including those individuals in the training and in the conversation before we move forward. I don't know how my peers here on the commission feel about that. So I'm fine either moving forward or waiting until they can get trained.
Other comments on that? I guess I agree with Commissioner Fraggle. I mean, it's been quite a while as it is. We've all been through the training, or those of us who are sitting here. I know I've got quite a bit of material that I'm still sifting through and learning about it. And I think if it took another couple of months and we had the larger group and we could have everyone participate, that would probably just be better. But those are my thoughts. Commissioner Ring.
Thank you, Chair Beeson. So partly I initiated this a while ago. So I just want to be sure we don't get caught in this endless cycle of waiting until we get it right. There's training to sort of participate in the acknowledgement, and there's training to create the acknowledgement. And I wonder if we can have an in-between, or consideration of an in-between track where we would actually create it, and then annually we would revisit it to make sure that's still what we want to say. And I think that would actually be a great way to keep it alive, and a great thing for us to work on annually if we do these annual sort of check-in meetings. So if that was possible, I think maybe getting something in place. And I'm after learning, okay, then now another topic, or same topic, another subpoint. After learning more about this, is it possible the council's going to revise theirs? I mean, I don't know. So I know there was some strength in having the institution follow the same acknowledgement at all levels. And so if we accept that, then we're really talking about accepting some subset of what they do, and maybe that's okay. But I wanted to know if the council was considering updating theirs at any point. We don't think they are. Okay.
I don't think they are, but that doesn't mean they won't, right? I mean, right now, that's not something they're actively pursuing.
Yeah. Okay.
But I don't, I think that one is kind of considered more of a temporary for them, that they will spend some time with it at some point. Yeah. Is my understanding.
So I would be in favor of moving forward and getting something on the boards. And who knows, it may take us until July to come up with something, and then we can open it up again. So, but I'd rather get started on something sooner if we could.
So Chris, are you volunteering to be part of a committee?
I wrote his name down.
I've already sent my email. I've already sent my email to the director.
Sweet. Okay.
I would be happy to work with Chris on that as long as we can get started after the month of May.
Okay. Yeah, I will reach out to both of you in June. I will also double check, unless Isaacson and Beeson are interested, I will double check with Commissioner Edwards, and I think it's fine if there's just the two of you. It's fine if there's three. Obviously, we can't have more than three. And then what I would propose is that one or two subcommittee meetings, and then bring it back to the whole group.
Hey, we could maybe even meet in person, Chris.
Ooh.
Well, good. That sounds like a good plan. It'll be good to move forward on that.
There any other questions for me?
Anything from commissioners? Does anybody have any other items of interest? Okay.
I just wanted to say thank you to staff and to Althea on the follow-up to the questions we had from last time. I thought it was really well put together. Thank you.
I do have one thing. Do we have any idea if we're going back to in-person? Not that I don't mind Zoom and I'm happy with Zoom. I just wasn't sure for scheduling if this is going to change. Does anybody have any thoughts?
It's going to eventually change. So we are waiting for the city manager's office to kind of perfect council meetings. And so we can learn from them and know what technology we should get or avoid. And so, and how to best manage those meetings. And so we are watching how those play out and learning from them. We do have some of our own technology ordered, but due to supply chain issues, in fact, my understanding is that city manager's office has one of our giant TVs that we would need because they needed it in one of the rooms to be able to have meetings. So we're being patient behind them. I would forecast maybe late summer, early fall, but don't hold me to that.
I'm under no rush.
Okay.
I don't know how the commissioners feel, but.
Well, and just so you know, it'll be going to a hybrid meeting. So we had an in-person council meeting last week, and there were 2 commissioners that were participating via Zoom. So that, just depending on folks' circumstances, we'll be able to accommodate that, which I think makes things more flexible.
And so we'll also be able to take public comment in person and remotely as well?
Yes, that's the plan.
Mm-hmm. And are we going to be updating the room we used to meet in with technology, or will we be meeting in the same spaces that the city council has been meeting?
We may be able to meet in the same space as city council, and that would be phenomenal because it's new and updated and doesn't have as strange of a layout as ours does. And that may be one option. We may at times also need to do it in the slow room in the atrium building.
Okay.
That new facility is in the LCC building.
Yes.
Right? Okay.
Yeah, they have both a council chamber and the.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Anything else? Okay, well, I want to thank everybody for attending, and I hope everybody has a great evening, and the meeting is now adjourned.